Then you also missed all the things. The entire part on photosynthesis you missed. What about you? तो अगली क्लास में ना those of you don't do your work notebook की ये हालत super हालत रहेगी. I'll straight away put you outside the class. 10 standard, this is not expected. Why did you come here? Tell me. Why are you here? Tell me. क्यों? हाँ, तो स्टडी का ये तो नमूना होना ही नहीं चाहिए. नोटबुक नहीं लाती हो? How is it possible? टेक्स्ट बुक है, वॉल्यूम है, टेक्स्ट बुक नहीं है. Please listen to me very carefully. मैंने पहले दिन से ही बोला 10 CBSE children, you'll have to get your textbooks also. अब तुम decide करो, you bring one day, you that is up to you. But textbook I should see. From time to time I ask you this activity and all these activities you'll have to check from your textbooks. Because all these activities will not be there in the volume. Whatever I teach, remember I will not be teaching. Why are you tearing pages one after the other? Right from the time I entered the class, I see her tearing pages one after the other.
1, 2, 5. उसको join करके
मजाक नहीं करो. Be very serious right from the beginning. I'm telling you. थोड़ी देर बंद करके उसके बाद चलाएंगे. Now listen here. What I'm telling you, all of you, notebook is must. Whatever work, one diagram. If it is very difficult for you to complete, I will give you 10 questions every class. So those 10 questions, I will not dictate any notes in the class. I will not discuss any question in the class. सिर्फ पढ़ाऊंगी and question answers 10-15 at a time will go as a homework for you. Is that okay? तो दो ही डायग्राम दिया था होमवर्क. एक हफ्ते का टाइम था. That much time you could not manage. Please children remember, notebook is must, and whatever work I tell you to do, that you'll have to do. You'll have to plan time for all the subjects right from the beginning. You have to learn to plan your time. Otherwise, very difficult. By the month of September, October, you get up from your sleep, some of you. अब जब स्कूल में 2 एग्जाम होगा, then only you will understand that नहीं अभी पढ़ना है. It should not be this way. Right from the first exam, you should start scoring good and better and better. ये attitude रहेगा, then there is no worry, nothing to worry. Okay? So मैं बताऊं? For you also, next class I should see all this work done. Either you write, Xerox करो, जो भी करो, but it should be there in your notebook, pasted, stuck, written. So now, next is, we had finished with the alimentary canal today. I think digestive glands, did we take? Digestive glands हुआ है? Check. Did we finish with digestive glands? Did we discuss with digestive glands? Alimentary canal we had discussed. And for alimentary canal, what did we come across is the parts of the digestive system. No, alimentary canal, digestive system. What are the two divisions of the digestive system? Alimentary canal and digestive glands. What are the parts of the alimentary canal we had studied? What are the parts of the alimentary canal? Number 1, mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Small intestine, large intestine. The other day we had done a number of questions also. What is that one special feature of the small intestine which helps in absorption and the process of diffusion? Villi. Villi. What are villi? Finger-like projections. Where are these finger-like projections present? In the inner wall of the ileum. What is ileum? The last part of the small intestine. What is that enzyme produced in the stomach we had learned? No, enzyme in the stomach. What was that enzyme in the stomach? The enzyme produced in the stomach. What is that enzyme produced in the stomach? Pepsinogen. You can write pepsin. What is that enzyme present in the stomach, produced in the stomach? Pepsin. Then what was the role of hydrochloric acid? What is the role of hydrochloric acid? We had learned three functions, minimum, first point and the second point. ये दो points याद रखना ही है. What is the first function of hydrochloric acid? Maintains acidic medium. Why is that acidic medium necessary? Maintains acidic medium for protein digestion. And what is the second function of hydrochloric acid? Pepsinogen to pepsin. And the third point, a general point, kills the microbes, if at all in the food. Kills the microbes if at all in the food. What is the role of the mucus we had studied? What is the role of the mucus? Protects the inner wall of the stomach from the action of hydrochloric acid. Protects the inner wall of the stomach from the action of hydrochloric acid. Then, what is gastric juice? What is the composition of gastric juice? What was it? What is the composition of gastric juice that we had studied? What is the composition of gastric juice? Stomach produces gastric juice. Three components. Name three components of the gastric juice. क्या लिखना है? नहीं. Name three components of gastric juice. That we had done, no? हाँ. Hydrochloric acid, pepsinogen, mucus. Name the three components of the gastric juice. Now, the next part that we are going to understand. ये part अगर थोड़ा सा clear नहीं होगा, now that I am going to talk about the digestive glands and the system of digestion, that also will be a little bit vague. So try to understand, be in the classroom, try to understand, interact karo, not understood, raise questions and see that you learn and go from here. Then it's a benefit. I asked you a question, why are you here? Definitely to learn much better than your school. You are not satisfied in your school, very straight I talk, you are not satisfied in your school, that's why you are here. Full stop. So here also if you are not participating properly, then your time and money is a sheer waste. So try understanding what I am speaking. So now I talk about the alimentary canal. If I ask you to write one difference between alimentary canal and digestive glands, पिछले बार में मैंने ये बोला था, क्या लिखना है? Difference between alimentary canal and digestive glands. So alimentary canal is what? What is alimentary canal?
Alimentary canal is a long
continuous tube-like structure through which the food passes. So we take the food and the food passes and goes to the stomach, comes down to the small intestine and then to the large intestine. What are digestive glands? Liver hai, pancreas hai, salivary glands hai. Does the food enter there? No, the food never enters.
But they help in digestion.
But they very much help in the process of digestion. Q? Because they are releasing special chemical substances known as enzymes. What are enzymes? Last class we defined. What are enzymes? Chemical substances that can break down complex food to similar forms. उसको एक और तरह से हम क्या बोल सकते हैं? What is the other word for enzymes? Biocatalysts. Why not catalysts only? Catalyst तो chemistry में हमेशा you study about catalyst. अब for enzymes, by the word biocatalyst, we are talking about biological molecules, biomolecules inside our body which can be broken down. So that's the reason biocatalyst. What are the digestive glands? Now we try understanding digestive glands and their functions. So I start with the first digestive glands. What is the first digestive gland? The salivary glands. What about their location, their names, and what do they produce? Salivary glands to talk about. What are the prominent salivary glands? Parotid. All of you will have a habit of writing down lecture notes and वो fast लिखते जाना है. सुनना है, समझना भी है and points लिखना भी है. You show off so much in school, no? सबसे senior batch, 10th standard. हाँ? है कि नहीं? Proud feel होता है कि नहीं? नहीं वो 11-12 छोड़ो, वो तो high secondary है. Secondary section में you are the senior most batch. है कि नहीं? So you have to Be very fast in your work also. Behavior, पढ़ाई में भी smartness दिखाना है. So now that we are talking about what are the different types of glands, I talk about salivary glands. कौन से? Which are the three types of glands? Parotid. We'll have to talk about the locations also. The parotid, the submandibular, and the sublingual glands. Where are they present? The first one I said parotid. The second one is known as submandibular. The second one is known as submandibular gland. And the third is known as the sublingual gland. Three glands I am talking about. The parotid, submandibular, sublingual. So talking about the parotid, where is the parotid present? Location nahi पूछा जाता है generally. But where is it present? Just to get a fair idea, where are they? If I talk about the parotid, they are just near the ear. Here. Submandibular कहाँ पे है? Almost near the jaw. यहाँ पे, near the jaw. This particular region, jaw. And then lingual कहाँ पे है? Under the tongue. Inside the mouth, under the tongue. What are they producing? All these three glands, what do they produce? They produce a colorless secretion. What is this colorless secretion known as? Saliva. This colorless secretion is known as saliva. Composition क्या है? Composition is it has got adequate amount of water, it has got some amounts of salts and a specific enzyme. What is that enzyme? Salivary amylase. What is the other word for salivary amylase? Tyalin. What is the other word for salivary amylase? Tyalin. Tyalin is the other word for salivary amylase. P silent hai. Tyalin. So what is the composition? Saliva ka composition kya hai? Saliva, transparent secretion produced by all these three glands. What is that? Amylase. A-M-Y-L-A-S-E. Salivary amylase. So name the enzyme present in the saliva. Salivary amylase. And the other word for salivary amylase is tyalin. What type of food does salivary amylase act on? Always carbohydrate. So the method, process of digestion we are going to study later. First of all, what are digestive glands you have to know. So salivary amylase is the enzyme. Now, you will come across later in all these glands and the process, जहाँ पे amylase enzyme का नाम हो, that will always act on some carbohydrate food. Pancreatic amylase, intestinal amylase, ऐसे अगर कुछ नाम होता है, the substrate, meaning the type of food that it will act on, always will be carbohydrate. Clear hai? So this is just the start to understand. So I'm talking about enzyme of the saliva. Next gland. That much only for the saliva to understand. The salivary gland. The three salivary glands, roughly where are they present? What do they produce? And the enzyme. Let us talk about the next gland. The next gland is the liver, the largest gland of the body. And this liver can grow. Digestive function ही पढ़ना है. So I talk about the liver. So when I am talking about the functions of liver, grow करता है, regenerate करता है, grow नहीं करता. If there's an injury and damage and loss, cut out, then the liver cells can grow, multiply. Grow मतलब it's not growing big, but it can regenerate. फिर से repair हो सकता है. So now that I talk about the liver, we are trying to understand the digestive role. The liver produces what? The cells of the liver produces a secretion, and what is this secretion known as? This secretion is known as the bile juice. What is the secretion of the stomach known as? What is the secretion of the stomach known as? What is the secretion of the stomach known as? Name the secretion of the stomach. Pepsinogen. वो तो enzyme है. Name the secretion produced by the stomach. Gastric juice. So similarly, what is the liver producing? So we talk about the liver now. Where is the liver present? If I have to look into the location of the liver is present on the liver is present on the right side, just opposite to the stomach. So whenever we are talking about where is this gland present, The liver is always present on the right side of the body, on this particular side of the body, above, little bit above the large intestine, and opposite to the stomach. Now talking about the bile juice. ऐसी चाहिए? नहीं मैम, मैम दोनों बोले. हाँ, put on. बड़ा गर्मी लग रहा है तुमको. So now, when we are talking about the liver produces. Name the digestive juice of the stomach. I asked you just now. What is your answer? Gastric juice. Name the digestive juice of the liver. क्या लिखना है? Bile juice. What is the composition of the bile juice? Composition of the bile juice again. It has small amount of water. It has bile salts, जो कि a very important component of the bile juice, and then it has got the bile pigments. So three major components of the bile juice that I am talking about. What are the three major components? Water है, bile salts है, bile pigments है. Did I write any enzyme? यहाँ पे कोई enzyme लिखा है? No, the bile juice does not contain any enzyme, remember. But ये जो bile salts है, they will always act on fats to break down complex fats to simple forms. Bile pigments. These are bile pigments. So now, when I talk about the composition of the bile juice, what is the composition of the bile juice? Water. It is a watery secretion. But what is the color? I said that saliva is colorless. But what about the bile juice? Is it colorless? No, the bile juice is not colorless. It is yellowish. It is yellowish in color. The bile juice is yellowish in color because of the presence of some bile pigments. And the bile salts, which is a component of the bile juice, plays a very important role when we talk about fat digestion. So the second gland that we were talking about was what? Liver. The second gland is liver. Now for liver, this is the name of the digestive juice and the components. And what is the major component? Bile salts. What type of food it acts on? Fats. Come to the next one. The third digestive gland that we are talking about, pancreas. What is the location? Check there. What is the location of the pancreas? Behind the stomach. Can you see here shaded? No, it is shaded. Shaded means it is actually behind the stomach and between the stomach and the large intestine also I can say. So it is between the stomach and the large intestine but majorly behind the stomach. If you look from the front, the pancreas is actually not seen.
And difference between gastric juice and digestive juice.
Difference between gastric juice and digestive juice is not a concept at all. Difference between bile juice and gastric juice will be a question. Digestive juice, gastric juice भी digestive juice है, bile juice भी digestive juice है.
पहले केस में जो stomach के जो gastric juices होते हैं वो
स्टमक का जो गैस्ट्रिक स्टमक का जो जूस होता है डाइजेस्टिव जूस उसको बोलेंगे गैस्ट्रिक जूस. कंपोनेंट्स है हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड, पेप्सिनोजेन, म्यूकस. और अब हम बोल रहे हैं लिवर. द डाइजेस्टिव जूस ऑफ द लिवर इज नोन एज बाइल जूस. इसके कंपोनेंट्स क्या है? वाटर, बाइल पिगमेंट्स, बाइल सॉल्ट्स. ठीक है, ये क्या चल रहा है? Water, bile pigments, bile salts, and bile salts majorly. Talk about the pancreas. Location I already told you. What is the location of the pancreas? Location of the pancreas is behind the stomach, always to right. And what about its composition? What does it release? The secretion. What does the bile or the pancreatic juice release? The the pancreatic juice is released by the pancreas. Pancreas releases pancreatic juice, but what is the composition now? The composition would be again, it is a watery secretion producing a whole lot of enzymes, Pancreatic juice has a whole lot of enzymes. So some few names of enzymes you will have to know here, and it has got some types of ions and salts. What are some of the prominent enzymes? Let us name some of them. Trypsin. Next is pancreatic amylase. Trypsin, pancreatic amylase. And third is pancreatic lipase. Now just get acquainted with these words. because we are going to study the process of digestion now. The moment you come across this type of an enzyme, this type of a word, trypsin hai, pepsin hai, you've already come across pepsin. So pepsin acts on what type of food? Proteins. Now that I'm talking about trypsin, this also acts on proteins, but in different forms. Okay, so we will come across now. Is there any, or is there a single enzyme for the entire process of protein digestion in our body? No. For protein digestion itself, there are more than 20-25 enzymes. For pancreas, for the fat digestion, I talk about fat digestion. Whenever you come across the word lipase, any type of lipases are always meant for fat digestion. Amylase is what I told you, salivary amylase, pancreatic amylase. What are amylases meant for? Amylase is always meant for carbohydrate digestion. So now that we come across the steps, you'll have to remember this. So what are the different types of enzymes? The three major enzymes. There are many more. Three major enzymes. One protein digesting, one carbohydrate digesting, one fat digesting enzyme. This is prominently mentioned in your book, and this is what you are asked also. Name three prominent enzymes of the pancreatic juice. What are the three prominent enzymes of the pancreatic juice you write? One protein digesting, one carbohydrate digesting, one fat digesting enzymes you will mention. So these are the three digestive glands that we talk about. We already defined in the beginning. What is the job of a digestive gland? Produce enzymes helping the process of digestion. The food never enters, the digestion does not happen inside those glands, but the process of digestion. Now, to understand the process of digestion, so far clear? Are these words, terms clear to you? Anything that you want to clarify? We have been talking about three digestive glands. The salivary gland, the liver, the pancreas. And what are their secretions? Now, we'll have to talk about the process of digestion. What are we talking about? The process of digestion. Now, to understand the process of digestion, there will be 9 steps of digestion that you'll have to study. Which are the primary regions of the alimentary canal where the digestion is happening? Which are the primary regions of the alimentary canal where digestion happens? Mouth. Mouth. So, prominent regions कौन-कौन से हैं? Mouth. Digestion takes place in the mouth. Yes. What else? Esophagus, where did I mention? Digestion takes place? No. Esophagus, no digestion takes place. Though we are talking about peristalsis, but digestion kuch bhi nahi. Then which is the second part where digestion will be taking place? Stomach. Stomach is the next part of the alimentary canal where digestion will take place. What next? When we have been talking about the large and the small intestine, did I mention large intestine carrying out steps of digestion? No. So abhi kaun sa part hai sabse important for digestion? Small intestine. So we are going to understand the third part which carries out the process of digestion would be the small intestine. I want all of you to write the steps of digestion exactly that I write. It's very easy to remember. Basic 9 steps में पूरा process of digestion इसी तरह से याद करना है. Children find it very easy to understand this way, and every batch they have been taught this way. So these are the specific 9 steps of digestion that you have to follow. We start with the mouth. 3 basic locations of the alimentary canal and कहाँ पे digestion हो रहा है. What are the types of digestion? I start with the mouth. In the mouth, what type of a medium that decides what type of food digestion will start. So mouth में medium क्या है? The mouth is alkaline. The mouth is alkaline. Remember बताओ stomach we already said it is acidic in nature. Okay. So mouth is alkaline. pH something 7.8 ऐसे रहता है, हमेशा 7.8 to 8 something like that. So now mouth is alkaline. So since it is alkaline, and on top of that, which is the enzyme in the mouth? Mouth cavity में enzyme कौन सा है? Enzyme कौन सा है? Mouth cavity में salivary amylase. Remember I just now wrote lecture points लिखना है सबको. Wherever you get stuck, confusion है पूछो. So for salivary, इससे ज़्यादा वो लंबा थोड़ी होगा, कितना दे? Next time से एक light jacket या कुछ पहन के आओ. Okay. So now light jacket, not light jacket. Definitely वो light jacket पहन के यहाँ पे नहीं आएगा. अब तक मैं उसको salivary amylase पूछ रही हूँ, उसको वो नहीं बोलना आ रहा है, light jacket बोलना आ रहा है. So now, when I talk about the mouth, I said, what is the enzyme in the mouth? Salivary amylase. Since the mouth has only one enzyme present in the saliva, and salivary amylase, so amylases should act on what type of food? Carbohydrate. Amylase is always on carbohydrate. Alkaline है medium, so protein digestion हो नहीं सकता. Enzyme एक ही है amylase, fat digestion हो सकता है. Lipases है ही नहीं stomach mouth में. So why only carbohydrate digestion takes place in the stomach? Give reason. क्या लिखना है? In the mouth there is only one enzyme, salivary amylase, which favors carbohydrate digestion. Enzymes for fat and protein digestion is not there. So what is that step? We have to talk about the steps of digestion. Number them. The first step of digestion that we talk about is starch, getting broken down with the help of salivary amylase. Starch getting broken down with the help of salivary amylase. What is the other name for salivary amylase? Tyline. So starch getting broken to maltose. Starch getting broken to maltose. What is maltose? Bit simpler. Starch. Can you give me two food substances where starch is present?
Potato, rice.
Rice, potato, wheat, corn. So ये सारे जो flour based food हम खाते हैं, आटा, मैदा, etc. सारे में starch होता है. At the moment you take the spoon of rice, the moment you are consuming the roti or the paratha, etc., process of digestion of carbohydrates starts. Starch, when I'm talking about the simple roti or paratha जो हम खाते हैं ना, paratha if I talk about, I would understand some salt or masala put. Simple अगर रोटी हम खाते हैं, if you have analyzed, if not, please do it. The moment you put in the mouth, it is not sweet. It is just tasteless. And the moment you have started chewing, दरवाजा बहुत पास है. हाँ, याद रखना. So now, the moment you have started chewing, once, twice, thrice, then you get to see some sweet taste, something you can feel. How are you able to sense that sweet taste now? Because of the conversion of starch to maltose, which has happened in your mouth. Enzyme responsible is salivary amylase. The food items containing starch, absolutely not sweet. Starch is never sweet in taste. But the maltose and the sucrose and the types of the carbohydrate and the fruit and the sugar, these are all sweet. But simple एक spoon आटा ले लो मुंह में, it's not sweet at all. It's not sweet at all. So that's the only step of digestion that we are talking about in the mouth. Next, I start with stomach. Now, stomach to talk about. What is the medium in the stomach? Acidic. What is the medium in the stomach? Acidic. What is the reason? Hydrochloric acid. The presence of hydrochloric acid. So the second step, in the stomach, only one step of digestion. What is that one step of digestion we are talking about? Protein digestion. Only protein. Only protein. Again, why carbohydrate digestion cannot take place in the stomach? Because carbohydrate digestion requires alkaline medium. Fat digestion also requires alkaline medium. But protein digestion start करने के लिए हमेशा acidic medium की जरूरत होती है. Hydrochloric acid, pepsin activate करता है pepsinogen. So these are the reasons we will write. I'll give you some questions after some time. So next is, what is the next step of digestion? Proteins. With the help of pepsinogen. Proteins with the help of pepsin. Here we will write pepsin because the active form of the enzyme has to be written. This will be converted to some peptones. This will be converted to some peptones and peptides. Let us write peptones and peptides. Try understanding ये जो words है, these are absolutely new for you. If I talk about proteins, मतलब I'm talking about proteins where I understand that this proteins has it's a long chain of certain components. Can you tell me what are the components which make up proteins? Did you ever come across? The components which make up protein. I talk about the protein in the hair, in the cell membranes, kahin pe bhi, ye to food. Proteins are made up of simple units known as amino acids. सुना है कभी? Amino acids, must have heard. So amino acids. So अगर मैं protein, complex protein in the egg and the fish and the milk की बात कर रही हूँ, then I understand that how many units यहाँ पे होता होगा? Hundreds. Hundreds definitely. Complex है. It's a complex structure. This complex structure is broken by this enzyme. So now that I talk about peptones and peptides, तो इसमें कितने होते होंगे? Obviously, this is now a bit simpler. Obviously, now I'm talking about a complex broken down to some simpler structures. 300, 350, 400, roughly ऐसा होगा. So now this is extremely complex. So roughly I'm saying अगर यहाँ पे 500 है, तो 400 है, 100 है, 150 है. 350 है. So something like that to understand where the complex molecule is broken down into two simpler molecules. Digestion complete है कि अभी भी और digest breakdown होना बाकी है. Clear है? So these are the terms that you have to write. Proteins getting broken down to peptones and peptides. Any other step of digestion in the stomach or कुछ भी नहीं? Only the proteins. Foodstuffs rich in protein, I just now mentioned. Pulses hai, beans hai. I talk about the different type of lentil, dal हम लोग खाते हैं, all rich in proteins. The fish and the meat and the egg, all rich in proteins. Dairy products rich in proteins. So that is about the small intestine. I start with the third part. After stomach and mouth, we start with the small intestine. The process of digestion in the small intestine starts with fats, complex fats. Fats will be broken down to simpler forms. Now, not digesting, this is a bit different. Fats will be broken down to simpler forms with the help of bile salts. Complex big molecules of fats are broken down with bile salts. Now, come across. Bile salts, pepsin and salivary amylase. कैसे different है? These two are enzymes. ये enzyme नहीं है. We are talking about salts. How is the first step of digestion of fats different from carbohydrate and protein? The first step of digestion of fat is brought about by bile salts, not an enzyme. Okay. Now this will be broken down to some smaller fat globules. Globules मतलब big chunks जैसे, big molecules जैसे. Fats broken down to smaller fat globules. इसको emulsification of fats कहा जाता है. What is this process known as? Emulsification of fats. This itself you get as a 2-mark question. Explain emulsification of fats. This itself you will get as a 2-mark question. Emulsification of fats. What is the meaning? Emulsification मतलब breakdown of complex fats to some small globules. But still अभी भी बाकी है digest होना. अभी भी complete हुआ नहीं है digestion. So when we are talking about what is emulsification of fats? Breakdown of complex fats to simpler, smaller fat molecules with the help of bile salts. Clear? So did we talk about one step of carbohydrate, protein and fat digestion? Yes. Now we will again start from this. Switch off. Switch off. He's shrinking and getting attached to that wall only there. So now when we are talking about the fourth step, so 1, 2, 3, एक step हो गया. Now we are going to talk about the fourth step. Now where is the process of digestion happening? Again, still in the small intestine we are talking about the fourth step. The fourth step I'm going to start again from here. Where is this fourth step happening? In the small intestine, But which part of the small intestine? The first part of the small intestine. Small intestine, the first part, what was the name? Duodenum. Duodenum. Do you remember? So the first part of the small intestine, if I am talking about, the first part of the small intestine will be known as duodenum. So here, when I talk about the first step, again I will talk about the starch. The fourth step is starch acted upon by, again, one more enzyme. But now why am I again talking about starch? Here, from the mouth, if I start from the mouth, as the process of chewing of the food and mixing of the food starts, a semi-solid mass of food gets formed in the mouth, which we swallow down and it passes into the stomach. What is that semi-solid mass of food known as which is formed in the mouth? Bolus. You'll have to take a note of this word, bolus. What is bolus? The mass of food which is formed in the mouth and we are swallowing it down. This mass of food will enter the stomach. The moment it enters the stomach, this mass of food will now become little bit semi-fluid. क्यों? Because this mass of food now mixing with the gastric juice, जिसपे काफी सारा water है, hydrochloric acid, liquid components कितना सारा add हो जा रहा है in the stomach. So now this bolus gets converted to a more liquid components and become semi-fluid in nature. So this semi-fluid consistency of the food in the stomach, इसको क्या बोलेंगे? Chyme. So now bolus and chyme, what is the difference? Bolus, the mass of food in the stomach that we are swallowing it down. We are consuming some bread, some roti, some rice. What's happening? A mass of food formed mixed with the saliva. We swallow down. What is that mass of food? Bolus. The moment it runs down the esophagus and go to the stomach, become semi-fluid now. This chyme now, if at all, after this chyme now moves down to the small intestine, it becomes even more watery. Because हर एक step में watery content. Now the pancreatic juice getting added to it as it goes down to the small intestine. Now say suppose I show you this figure again. Try understanding. As it is now, as what is this? The mass of food which is running here, what will we call this as? Bolus. The bolus is coming here mixing with the gastric juice, now becoming semi-fluid, known as the chyme. अब जब ये chyme, it is entering into the duodenum, again it is coming in contact with the pancreatic juice and the bile juice. So उसका watery content even more ज़्यादा हो जा रहा है. This semi-fluid nature of the chyme is now converted into almost a fluid nature. Undigested food है, but mixed with so much of water and enzymes, so almost a fluid consistency है, which is running down the duodenum and the rest of the intestine. And this is where the process of digestion is happening. So I am talking about this part right now, the first part of the small intestine. So as the food has come down here, इसमें whatever starch is still remaining, जो अब तक digest नहीं हुआ, but now can I say that the salivary amylase will act on this? No, salivary amylase तो mouth में है. Then which enzyme will act on this? The pancreatic amylase. क्योंकि pancreas also produces enzymes for digesting the starches. So I will write here now pancreatic amylase, not salivary amylase anymore. But the product is the same. What is the product? Maltose. Come to the fifth step. Fifth step हमें कहाँ से लेना है? Second step का जो products है. What are the products of the second step? Peptones and peptides. I am talking about digestion here with the help of pancreatic enzymes. तो pancreatic juice में protein digesting enzyme कौन सा था? Pancreatic juice में protein digesting enzyme कौन सा था? I had mentioned pancreatic juice में protein digesting enzyme trypsin. So now we will take this one, peptones and peptides. Long chains है अभी भी. Peptones and peptides will be digested by trypsin. to form small peptides. To form small peptides. One more step of protein digestion we are talking about. Now I talk about the third step. Product of the third step is K extension. Now what will happen to this smaller fat globules? The smaller fat globules will be acted upon by, what was that fat digesting enzyme in the pancreatic juice? ये जो fourth, fifth, sixth step है, this is happening in the duodenum. तीनों ही. मैं यहाँ पे ब्रैकेट करके लिखती हूँ. All these three steps are happening in the duodenum. Okay, tell me now. This smaller fat globules has to be broken down by the lipase, the fat digesting enzyme from here. So what is the fat digesting enzyme here known as? That is known as pancreatic lipase. So we will write here enzyme is pancreatic lipase. समझ में आ रहा है क्या? Are you following? Yes. Following? The product of this now again has to be further broken down. So first step हमने ये लिखा. Again, why did I write the same step? I have written the same step because when the food goes down to the duodenum, if at all any starch is left, that will be broken down by the pancreatic amylase. Yes. The process of movement is very slow. Remember, we had talked at the start, features of the small intestine, extremely long and narrow and coiled. So since long, narrow, coiled hai, the food is passing through very slowly. So that's the reason the food gets enough time to mix with the digestive juices and chemical breakdown hota rehta hai. So what will we write here now? Smaller fat globules gets broken down to simple fat molecules. Or bhi simple hai, simple fat molecules. There are names for all these compounds, but तुम्हारे syllabus में the names are not given, so you have to write it general like this. 6. Now I talk about the 7th step. 7th step कहाँ से लिखेंगे? From here. What is happening to this further? Maltose has to be further broken down. Which enzyme? Maltase. अब ये जो maltose है that I am talking about, where is maltose present? In the wheat, in the gram, the wheat and all this different type of flour that we eat, no, the ragi and the oats and the bajra, all these will have maltose as a carbohydrate there, and this will be broken down to glucose and glucose. तो वैसे तो carbohydrate milk में भी होता है. Are you aware what is that carbo sugar in the milk known as? Lactose. Lactose. So वो भी हमें लिखना है. Lactose, the milk sugar. Lactose will be broken down by lactase. ये एंजाइम याद रखना बहुत इजी है. Maltose, maltase. Lactose, milk sugar. ब्रैकेट में लिख के रखो नहीं तो. Milk sugar, lactase. And this will get broken down to glucose. Now these are all sweet in taste. Glucose and galactose, sweet in taste. Starch, not sweet in taste at all. Fruits में जो sugar होती है, grape sweet है, pineapple sweet है, apple sweet है. What is that fruit sugar known as? Fructose. Fruit sugar, what is it known as? Fructose. Fruit sugar known as fructose. So this, that is the simplest form. We'll start with sucrose and enzyme is sucrase. Lactose, lactase. Enzyme हाँ बोलो. Glucose plus galactose. These are the simplest forms of carbohydrate. Sucrose, and then now we write down glucose plus fructose. What are these? These are the simplest form of carbohydrate. Digestion of carbohydrate gets completed this way. Are we done? Now we have to talk about carbohydrate done. We have to talk about step number 5 further. Step number 8. I'll have to take this small peptides. Small peptides. Small peptides will be further divided by the intestinal will be further divided by peptidases. Peptidases are intestinal enzymes. So small peptides will be divided by this to break down into amino acids. Is the digestion of proteins over? Yes, amino acids we got. So what is the simplest form of sugar? All these are the simplest form of sugar. Why are we talking about simplest form? जब तक simplest form होगा नहीं, absorption नहीं हो सकता है. Small peptides broken down by peptidase. Peptidases, these are the enzymes, peptidases. The last step, simple fat molecules. Simple fats broken down by intestinal lipase. Intestinal wall also produces enzymes. Many, we are talking about some. This will break down into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids and glycerol. Is this the simplest form of fats? Yes. How many steps are we understanding? 9 steps. Now check. The first step of carbohydrate digestion. Complete karo, all of you. I'll give you 2 minutes. Complete this. Then again you have to understand which steps to pick up for which question. All these 9 steps very correctly. लिखो, कहीं पे डाउट है पूछो. हाँ, glycerol, GLYCEROL. हाँ, glycerol. Tell me. Glycerol. All of you are done. लिखा all the 9 steps. Did you write all of you? हाँ. GLYCEROL.
7, 8, 9.
7th, 8th and 9th, this is all happening in the second part of the small intestine, jejunum. The jejunum. All this taking place in the jejunum. So duodenum and jejunum. Digestion is over. In the ileum, what did we learn the other day? Absorption abhi hona baki hai. This is happening in the mouth. This is happening in the stomach. This is happening in the duodenum. Duodenum mein all these steps, and then these steps are happening in the jejunum. Okay. Now check. If you get a question, explain process of protein digestion in the human alimentary canal. तो कौन से steps लिखने हैं बताओ?
ये 9 steps.
नहीं. Question तो सुनो. ये पूरा explain the process of digestion कभी भी नहीं आता है. You will get either proteins or carbohydrates or fats. Explain the process of carbohydrate digestion अगर आया 3 mark का question. Then which are the steps to write? Carbohydrate digestion के लिए कौन से steps? This, then
4
and
7.
आया समझ में अभी? So ये step इसका continuity and इसका continuity. Maltose कैसे break down हो रहा है, lactose कैसे, sucrose कैसे, and then over. So what is the simplest form of carbohydrate digestion? What is your answer? Glucose, majorly glucose. So galactose and fructose के भी formula एक ही है, C6H12O6 वही है, but orientation, arrangement of the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen थोड़ा अलग होता है. So what is the simplest form of carbohydrate digestion? Glucose. ये जो galactose है, fructose है, they also can pass the membrane of the villi because they are very simple. Okay, you get in the paper, explain the process of fat digestion. कहाँ से start करना है? Starting 4th से कहाँ? 3rd. Start. Explain the process of fat digestion. 3rd. उसके बाद कौन सा? 3rd and then 6th and then 9th. अभी आया समझ में? How will you answer the questions? And location लिखना है that this particular step happens when you are framing your answer. इस तरह से equation लिखना है and in 1 or 2 sentences explain करोगे, location mention करोगे. You get a 3-mark question. Explain the process of fat digestion in the human alimentary canal. The process of fat digestion starts where? In the small intestine with the help of bile salts. And you write this equation. Then next step क्या लिखना है? The smaller fat globules again further get broken down with the help of pancreatic enzyme, and the simple fats ultimately with the help of intestinal enzymes get broken down to fatty acids. Now fatty acids are ready to be absorbed. What is the meaning of absorption? From the ileum, from the small intestine, go to the blood. Process क्या था? What did I mention? Diffusion. So diffusion I will take later, not now. Is this clear? आया समझ में? थोड़ा confusion होगा because all these words are new for you. Let me give you 1 or 2 questions. देखो समझ में आ रहा है क्या? Explain emulsification of fats. Explain emulsification of fats. Emulsification ये कॉमन क्वेश्चन है, ये आता ही है इन द एग्जाम. Explain emulsification of fats. Where does it take place? Explain emulsification of fats. Where does it take place? Answer. The breakdown of complex fats. The breakdown of complex fat molecules. Breakdown of complex fat molecules to smaller fat globules. To smaller fat globules. To smaller fat globules takes place in the duodenum. Takes place in the duodenum. Check karo spellings. Takes place in the duodenum with the help of bile salts. With the help of bile salts. Full stop. With the help of bile salts. Full stop. The smaller fat globules are now further broken down in the small intestine by fat digesting enzymes. Are broken down in the small intestine by fat digesting enzymes. What is emulsification of fat? 2 questions I'll give you as homework. Please note it down fast. Number 1, enzymes, fat digesting enzymes. Okay. Number one, why does the protein in the food remain undigested in the mouth? Why does the protein in the food remain undigested in the mouth? याद है? I had discussed this with you. Why protein digestion, fat digestion does not take place? सोचो. What did we discuss? Point में लिखना है answer. Point number 1, point number 2. सोचो. See if you can. Next class. If not, I will discuss in the mouth. 4-5 लाइन छोड़ो. उसके बाद one more question you write. Leave at least 4-5 lines there. After that you write. Explain the steps of protein digestion. Exactly एक format करोगे तो समझ में आ जाएगा how to answer. Explain the steps of protein digestion in the human alimentary canal. Explain the steps of protein digestion in the human alimentary canal. Exactly जिस तरह से मैंने बोला है उस तरह से you will write, check, whether you are understanding, following or not. Okay? The textbook, this part of the chapter, please read and come. From this, we are only left with absorption and assimilation, then we move on to respiration, the next part of the chapter.